This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Acceptance of minutes from the September meeting. Eileen, it's all yours.
What I did, I put a copy in front of you of the minutes from the last meeting. And I have it in purple, the suggested edits by Cindy. And does anyone else have any suggested edits?
Okay.
So, can I make a motion to
Accept the minutes?
as with Cindy's edits?
Okay. Are you motioning or are you seconding? Oh, someone. You did. Eileen did and Chuck seconds. Okay, all those, we have any comments? All those approved? Aye. Tom approves and Stan? I see not Stan.
Dan's,
Sorry. No, I think we got him. I approve.
I should abstain since I was not here.
You're gonna abstain? Okay.
Since we have.
Okay. Kathy abstains. Okay, very good. Item 3, public speak up to 2 individuals, 5 minutes total. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak?
Not too long.
Not today? Okay. All right, very good. Item 4, the Highland Valley report would have been delivered by Patrick had he been here today, but Patrick's an excused absence. So we will defer that discussion until later, our next meeting. Okay, item 5, the director's report. Cindy, inform update. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. There's so much to talk about. I simply put physical stuff on the agenda for today, and then if there's, I don't think there will be extra time, but if I think I have a little bit of extra time, I can give you an update on a few other things. The fiscal update is in 2 to 3 parts. So this part is a general look at the budget for fiscal year 24, the year we're in now, and then how our expenditures went in the first quarter is preliminary figures according to the auditor. And then next time we'll look at what was our budget last year? What did we bring in for deposits? What did we expend? And if you recall, last year we didn't do, in my first 2 years here, we didn't do a budget for every single aspect of the Council on Aging. We did a budget for the general fund and for our formula grant. But so now what I'm trying to do is untangle everything, put it back together so that the public can understand what does it take to fund the Council on Aging, at least our part of it. There's other parts, DPW, IT, and so on. So, but just starting with our part, so that what we would eventually come to, I hope by January, City Council is going to do open houses at every department where the public can come and learn about what's in your department budget, what are your department services. I hope to have like a nice, clean, easy to understand handout for that. So this part for the board is just to give you more information about what are the things that go into the quarterly report that you'll be looking at. And then I think every November, I would say, given the schedule from the auditor, we should take a look at how the previous year went. What did we bring in for revenue? What did we spend it on? And what were our balances going into the year that we're in? Because what I look at when I'm budgeting is preliminary information. At budget time, I don't have all of that information. So just that's the introduction to this. So our budget, if you look at the table in black and white that I printed out, that's 2 pages, where it says account budget FY24 and types of expenditures. Here's the
Okay, could you hold it up so we can,
So it's not the stapled together part, it's the unstapled part.
the unstable? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, so it doesn't look all official the way it did things in the budget book because that was city general funds that are appropriated for the Council on Aging. This is a look at what are all of the funds that we're going to the revenue amounts that we have to spend from. We're just looking at what's the budget that we expect to spend based on what I know about what we spent last year and what we have planned for purchases that we already have planned for this year. So at the top, you'll see is personnel. That's the biggest number, of course, and that's from the city's general fund. And then there's a small amount under that, which is for non-personnel expenses, which we have not yet spent. And mostly that's just like my mileage and a little bit for repair and maintenance of the building, $1,000. That's just in case DPW runs out of money and I need to hire an electrician, something like that. Then underneath that are all of the revolving and grant accounts, except for one, which is an earmark that we have already expended, that we bought the van for. But other than that one I thought was in FY23. It seems to be in both FY23 and FY24.
To be able to see what she's.
So in any event, so what I've done here is, so under the van, which is where we take in the fees that people spend to ride the van and also some designated donations that go directly into the van account. That $10,000 represents the general amount I think we're gonna spend on repairs and maintenance, plus we have a new van we need to paint, do stickers on for signage. The fitness, 15,000, that would be more than we typically spend in a year, but in July I had to buy a new treadmill for $5,000, and that's why it's a little higher. What I want to do for you guys in the future is when I do this, be able to show you what did we spend maybe like for the last 3 years in a row, so you can so you can compare
Over time.
But this is, I didn't inherit anything like that, so I have to build it. I'm building it
From scratch.
right. And Linda may have had that in the past. I don't know. So then revolving fund, revolving Title III. That's Highland Valley Elder Services. We have leftover grant funds. They don't do things that way anymore. It's a reimbursement grant now. So these funds go way back, and we're using them for those mileage expenses of our volunteer drivers. That $5,000 is almost double what we spent last year because we brought on more drivers. And so I know that if I budget them for the whole year, it'll be almost double what we spent last year. The gifts, there really isn't a budget for gifts. That's an account where mostly it's a bequest that came to us at one time, and then people make $300 or $20 or $5 in donations that are not designated, and they go into that account. And like I said, you see here, we typically use it only if there's no other option, or maybe somebody says, I really want you to do a holiday thing, or somebody says, I want you to buy wheelchairs. Goes in there, we use it accordingly. That 2,000 is just my guess at what we probably would spend from that account this year. We might spend more, and I'll update you. The formula grant, that's the other big one besides the city general fund. That's the grant that we get from the state that says seniors in the state of, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts currently are worth $14 per person in terms of community services for seniors age 60 plus. That is an increase over the past few years where it was $12. And then a few years before that, it was $10, all the way back to the beginning where they were 50 cents each. So we've gone from 50 cents a senior to $14 a senior. And then the numbers increased. It's a formula grant. The numbers they're counting are 4,778 people, 60 plus in Easthampton based on the 2020 census. You multiply that by 14 and you get $66,892, which you see on the right-hand side. The reason the number is higher in my FY24 budget is that that reflects my preliminary estimate of how much was left over from previous years. You're encouraged because it's a 10-year grant, just as a best practice. Some towns make their communities spend it. Other towns see the wisdom that you should really, if you have some left over, save it because you might have a huge purchase the next year or salaries might go up. In our case, I don't think I'm going to save it because we need to buy an AV system. We need to buy some assistive listening technology. Got like some things, bigger things to do. And I think we should probably spend it all, but we'll look at that. The SIG grant means that's a grant that we have to spend by June that I got this year to encourage people to come to our informational presentations and to break down isolation among people out in the community. So, and that's all around food and postage to reach out to people. The MARTAC grant, you may not have heard about this, but basically, I bought wheelchairs so that whenever we use our vans or we have people at the senior center who need a reliable, working, clean wheelchair, we have two that are just ours. So we already spent that. So the total that you see at the bottom, that $380-something thousand, does not represent in full what it costs to run a senior center. It doesn't count the gas we spend on the vehicles. It doesn't count our software from IT. So it doesn't count fringe benefits, insurance, all the insurances of all the different kinds and so on. And of course, it doesn't represent the city's in-kind of using the building. It doesn't count utilities. So it's my project over time that we would more fully recognize what it costs to run a council on aging, so that if we ever do build another building or get another space, we could truly budget for what does it cost and then what does it cost to avoid deferred maintenance or avoid problems.
So, sort of like life cycle costing, right?
Yeah, so we're not there yet, but, and that project would involve other departments and everybody's really busy, but, so that's a look. And then the budget detail is a little skinny table. If you look at the EOEA formula grant and the SIG grant, those are more complex, and so is the city fund. So what I brought were supplemental things. So between this page and this page, so this page on top of your tables. So this explains the city general fund and how it's used for personnel. And then this explains what basically my estimate on what we would use that formula grant for, and then what we would use that SIG grant for in more detail. And we don't have to go into it all right now. The other thing about, and then there's the city general fund expense budget, which is very small. And I told you what that is. I didn't bring that, but that's in the city's budget book. And we can, I have it here, but I didn't give it to you because we don't have time to go through the whole thing right now. So if you look at personnel, this is the budget and this is different from the first one I sent you. I have made an error on that. So the first column tells you what are the personnel. The second column tells you what is the total salaries. The third column tells you what's the city portion. And then the fourth column tells you where's the rest of the money coming from for these salaries. And then the last column is important. So when you look at the expense control reports that you get usually quarterly from me, so that you can see how much are we spending in the city general fund as time goes on, and what is the percentage total that we're spending in each period of time. because we changed the numbers on the personnel and it can get really confusing, this is the key. So like the 5, number starting with 5 is the key to understanding the expense control report. For example, if you look at, if you looked in the city budget book, the 5111, which is the full-time director, me, what you will see, and you don't have this, okay, but what you would see is that it's blank in all the preceding years. But that's because we changed my number to recognize that I'm a department head. And then we moved the program manager and the outreach coordinator into 5112. That was my old line. So it's kind of confusing because you would look at it and you would think, why did the COA jump from this much to this much or go down from this much to this much? So that's just to help you out. Now,
Cindy, just
Yeah.
one real quick question. There's the reference to a number 5410 is the department that refers to the Council on Aging, right?
yes, that's our number,
Okay.
5410. So now let's go to the expense control report. And what this is 3 pages and it's preliminary. So when you see at the top where it says expense control report, that's always the city general fund. And then the period from 7 is July, 8 is August, 9 is September, that's your quarter. So each of these pages is showing you a picture of what did we spend in July, and then in August, and then in September. So you can just look at September. It's sort of like this was a learning time, so I brought them all, but I could have just brought September. So if you look at that, and for some of you, you know this way better even than me, but I'm just explaining it for everybody. So when you look at this, okay, all these personnel categories up here are categories encompassing more than one person. That's why you also have this, because this shows you who are the people individually and what are they being paid for the year. But they're grouped into categories on the expense control report. So you kind of need both. And then this shows you the percentage that we've spent. It's going to be different for different personnel, right? So I'm fully on the city's general fund, and so is Ashley, who just walked in, but Dawn, the program manager, is partially on a grant. So, and then somebody else might be, the drivers are mostly on the city general fund, but I have a little bit floating on that formula grant from Elder Affairs in case we go over, because now we're doing field trips. We said that we would use formula money if we had to for the drivers. So that's the explanation of what these pieces are. You can look at them, and then next time we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna look at how do we afford these items. Well, we already know how we afford the city general fund, paying for personnel and the few expenses that we're allowed. And that's explained already in what you have here and what everybody saw in the budget book. But how do we afford everything else? We afford it because either we have grants or we have revolving funds and we're getting donations. And then we use our judgment about what are all the buckets, if you want to say, of the senior center, what are the priorities of the senior center in a given year, and how are we, using our best judgment to spend that money. What is your responsibility as a board? And Joe, you can give me a time, where are we at?
It's 12:36.
Okay. Because we started late, I'm gonna, be a little quicker. So the board's responsibility is purely advisory. So you don't vote a budget, you don't vote how to spend a grant, but I value your opinion and advice, but you can't give good advice without presentations from staff about what we're doing, without either reading a newsletter or checking out some of our programs, without hearing from me what we're spending it on. So think of this as a project where hopefully for a whole year, we're looking at the quarterly reports, you're hearing information from me about how I'm making decisions or what we're spending on. You're going to have the experience of hearing what were all our deposits and expenditures in the previous fiscal year and what was left, so you can see what we're grappling with. Because right now, I don't think you have enough information to even provide advice. And maybe it will turn out that the whole big group isn't the place to do that. It might be that you have a subcommittee, which I don't know, in which you say, oh, let's take a deeper look with Cindy at, how are these decisions being made? What are you spending your money on? What are you confronted with? And then the board can be prepared. Like, let's just say, this isn't happening right now, but let's just say, I don't know, hopefully DPW is not listening, but let's just say they capped us or something on fuel. And then that impacted how many rides could we do over the course of the year. We'd have to have an informed conversation about that. And I would want to have it with the board and with the staff and with participants. They're not saying that, but so so that I would say is the project. So before Joe shifts us, first of all, does anybody have any burning questions that we could put in the parking lot for another? I know we don't have time to get to them all, but I could write down your questions and then we could address them next time. Or if you think of them afterwards, you can tell Joe.
I was going to suggest, why don't we have a test next meeting?
Oh, please.
That'll make us read it.
I mean, it might be a interesting, amusing vehicle to wrap your head around,
Sure.
or just ask people to explain different parts of the budgeting process.
We're not there yet, Joe. We're not there yet. But I think everybody on the COA board should go to these open houses for at least some, if not all of the departments, and see what are they presenting in January and February at their open houses. And I'll tell you ours is, because you should probably be there and be informed.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Is there a document that you have which represents the Council on Aging, budget submission?
Only for the general fund. That's what I'm trying to create. And actually, let's say we have 1,000 things that we spend our money on. I need to figure out how to categorize those in ways that make sense to everyone. Because if everything is just miscellaneous professional and technical services, but we have 100 all different kinds of activities in there. I need to, in fact, I might want to sit down with Joe, and there might be another person on the board who has this kind of fiscal management experience, and even just make up our own glossary of budget line items. Coming from the nonprofit world, it's very different in municipal, and terms we use are not understandable to the layperson or even to me, whether something is a good or was a contracted service. So
I mean, it's like, I would hope that that one of your duties this coming year is to develop your 30-second elevator speech where you can explain this stuff in 30 seconds.
Our budget in 30 seconds.
Yep.
Okay, Joe.
Joe?
No, I'm serious, guys.
If you have burning questions, submit them to Joe, because he does the agenda for November to make sure what we're trying to do, if you notice, is in the director's report, instead of just saying direct, we're trying to warn what is going to be discussed on the agenda. Okay.
Well, Cindy, let me ask you this. You had asked for 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and
What time is it now?
we've got about 19 minutes.
Joe?
Yes, Tom.
I might have missed a little something because the audio was fading out a little bit, but just wanted to comment on sort of a higher level view. Cindy, I don't know Obviously, the board will never achieve a level of understanding of the budget that you have. But my experience has always been that we obviously should understand it better than we have in the past, but the board should be ready, willing, and able to advocate to the city if and when you hit a bump in the road on some sort of funding or some sort of issue from the city. That's when the board has to be prepared to step up, potentially go to the mayor, go to the city council, go to whomever the funding source is to advocate for this particular issue or bump in the road that you've hit. So if out of the clear blue, for example, the city decides they're going to cut a position and you're pulling your hair out because you don't know what to do without that position, we need to be ready to show up at countless public meetings to advocate for that issue. I just don't know about the ability of the board to get way down in the weeds on the budget, but more or less sort of a 20,000 or 10,000 foot view, if you will, just so we have the knowledge and understanding of it. I agree, but not obviously not to the level that you have. And that's not just because I'm afraid of a test or not.
Yes, I would agree. There's a whole level, obviously, that you're not even seeing, which would be, say, the ledger, which is like, who are all the vendors and what did they get paid, and on and on and on, and what were all the things we bought from, for office supplies. So, but I agree with you, Tom, that 20,000 is a higher level, broader overview than what I did here.
I was going to suggest 10,000, Tom, but for the time being, I'll defer to 20.
20,000.
Okay. Cindy, you were going to have one of your folks who was,
Yes.
and that's
Ashley, you want to come over here?
okay. Well,
We have,
if you would, can
you
you
have
give me,
other items.
give me
yeah.
about 3 minutes to talk about something? Okay, folks. The item I'm going to jump down to item 6. Pardon me. Old business, building committee request to mayor. You may recall the letter that I wrote to the mayor saying that now's the time to set up an ad hoc committee. And I just would like to let everybody know that I got a call from the mayor yesterday. I almost had a heart attack. But basically what the mayor indicated is that she's in favor of that action, and the paperwork will be forthcoming probably in the next couple of weeks in terms of the committee and what its mandate will be and who the players will be at what points in time. But long story short is she said she's good to go with that. So it's, I think, something, it's something good for us, and
Yes.
there's going to be
Bravo.
it's going to be a big chunk of work for some folks too. And even though certain people may not be named to the committee at some point, we'll probably need everybody involved. Along the same token as what Tom was saying, it's like when you're looking for big money for a new building, then you're going to have to know where the money comes from and how to get at it. So, okay, that's all I have to say.
Well done.
So you have the remaining time.
So again, for anybody tuning in who doesn't already know, I'm Cynthia Terrell. I'm the director of the Council on Aging. This is Ashley Fraga, who's our full-time outreach coordinator. And Ashley, in the role of outreach coordinator, performs SHINE, so Medicare counseling, mass health applications, all kinds of benefits counseling, from SNAP, which you also know as food stamps, to fuel assistance, assists us with the activities that we do, including driving the van to outings and providing program facilitation to those folks, especially from an outreach perspective. She has experience as an activities coordinator in senior living, case management, has worked at Highland Valley Elder Services and Options Counseling. So she's coming to the senior center as somebody who's supposed to do benefits counseling and outreach in its broadest definition, but comes with a lot of experience that's directly related as well. And just so you know, so we're clear, when we talk about case management, we're talking about brief case management at the Council on Aging. We don't do like long-term case management, but people often come back over and over here for fuel assistance or there because they just need a ride to the motor vehicle office and a little extra help and, you know, or for example, Ashley also has a component around dementia and being a dementia champion. So the role is variable, and it's also what you make of it as well. So that's my introduction of Ashley. And so what I asked Ashley to come and do is just speak for about 5 minutes on, to her, what are the hot issues facing people 55 plus and their family members in Easthampton today that she is seeing every week and dealing with that you might not expect that we're helping with, and also things that you might expect that we're helping with. And then just to explain a little bit more, when we say we have outreach pages in the newsletter, you know, what are we doing? What's not on here? So that you just have a little bit of a picture, and then you can ask some questions. It's a really short time and we can do it again too. Oh, and the last piece is Ashley's been working for us since November. So it's been almost a full year of doing this. And she's supported by Linda Talbot, who's the outreach assistant, who is mainly a Shine and public benefits counselor. Okay, so Ashley, you can start wherever you want and just organically talk, and we'll stop you if you take too long.
Okay. So I think, as far as residents and just, I think Massachusetts as a whole, to be honest with you, but specifically, I think housing is an issue. And it's always going to be kind of an issue. It's just a work in progress. I try to keep those doors open with the housing authority because I think it's really important as someone who's assisting our folks with the CHAMP website online.
Spell out what CHAMP is.
CHAMP.
Not to explain what it is.
Okay, so CHAMP is the Massachusetts state-aided centralized application for housing authority complexes. So to get onto the housing authority anywhere in the state of Massachusetts, you can be here and put yourself on for Brighton, anywhere else. So and those are for the state-aided homes or complexes, I should say. So I've been helping a lot of our folks get onto that because a lot of them don't have email addresses. And that's kind of the block that we're getting into, is that it's kind of bringing them forward with us. So I'm creating that information for them, giving it to them, helping them navigate that so that they can go in on their own or come in to me and do it. It's important for me to let them know that all they have to do is just get the information. I can organize it and put everything in there for them because it's a lot to deal with, especially when you have to move out of a home that you've lived in forever and trying to find something that's affordable. And it's affordable housing. That's the key here, because housing is probably abundant, but it's affordable housing, especially for our solo agers, which is up and coming. Family dynamics have changed. We have a lot of solo agers. And I think there's a few that I've spoken with here that I've helped with getting cell phones and fuel assistance and just access to those benefits as well.
So talk to us, besides housing, are there any other really hot button issues that you see us helping with as a senior center that maybe people wouldn't expect that we're helping with?
Yeah. What do we need to know?
I mean, when it comes to people who are dealing with immigration issues, motor vehicle issues, people coming in who still have student loan issues of their adult children, like whatever all the things are, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're faced with every day, especially with walk-ins?
With walk-ins, it still doesn't go up, but on a day-to-day basis, it's a lot of utility help as far as Eversource, because they do have payment plans with folks. is a lot of SNAP benefit reductions. Trying to see if there's a way that we can possibly get more out of that SNAP benefit. Changes in any sort of, whenever there's a change in income or anything, and when it comes to benefits, you have to notify those certain companies. So it's just making sure that everything is updated to the best of their ability, especially with rental incomes, because rent has gone up, and it's important. I don't think a lot of folks know to report those changes, even though we say report those changes to SNAP, because it could affect, you could get a higher amount, which could, help out greatly when it comes to.
And I'll add, we know that in Massachusetts especially, there is so much food stamp money, SNAP money, sitting on the table for older people that could really help them. And many people say, oh, that's for somebody else. Somebody else should take advantage of that. So we have to all
Try to beat that stigma. They've paid their dues, they've worked, they've paid their taxes. It's a benefit for those 65 and up, and 65 and up should take advantage of it because it's there for them specifically.
Do you want to say a word about it being open enrollment time right now? What the dates are and what that
Open
is?
enrollment, October 15th to December 7th is Medicare Advantage open enrollment. So that's premiums have changed from 2023 to 2024, and some of them are being hiked and some of them are dropping a little bit. So I've gotten, at least in my opinion from last year, I wasn't SHINE certified, but I was health pre-certifications. But I would say we did our Medicare 101 this year, and we sent out our mailings to 55 and up. And surprisingly, everyone that showed up to our Medicare 101 was between the ages of 55 and 62, which was really nice, or just turning 65. So we reached out to those folks that needed to hear from us, which was really nice, which was important because we want to market that 55 plus, especially getting ready for retirement and knowing what to expect and what you should look into as you're getting into that time frame.
And none of those 10 people who came to that workshop had ever had anything to do with the Council on Aging. So that was that SIG grant I mentioned for $10,000. We have $1,500 postage in there to do that mailing that we did, because otherwise there is no budget. There is no postage budget for the Council on Aging people. It doesn't come out of central supplies. So we, in order to send, hundreds of people a mailing saying you're turning 65 soon, come on in and learn about Medicare. That's what that project was for. And now you can follow up with them. What word will spread over time.
Yeah.
And now every year we'll write to those people just as they're turning the age.
I think it's important to get the 55ers in there because it's socialization. If you have someone that's 70 and, walks a little bit harder with a crane or, whatever, what have you, to see a younger group and then mixing, commingling, doing stuff together, we have to have community helping community because there's no other way to survive here nowadays.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the lunch field trips and why we're doing those?
Absolutely. So I'm very interested in solo aging and the idea of solo aging just because families have changed a lot. And there's a lot of elders that are aging on their own, either through divorce, lost a spouse, haven't gotten back into it, no kids live across country, whatever, what have you. So we're finding out that, or I'm finding out that, kids are reaching out to me, visiting mom during the holidays, noticing that she's, acting different, forgetting stuff, more forgetful and stuff like that. So we thought with the grant to do kind of a new to town, come and have lunch with the outreach and other folks that have a little bit more of a community standing as well, and that are apt and able and want to kind of create that community helping community, and just getting folks together to talk about things, share different interests, find common ground, and kind of help facilitate and help a friendship grow from that. I took 3 gentlemen out recently. We had a fantastic time. One of them is legally blind. The other, it was a new just came in from South Carolina to move in with his sister. She took him out of a bad situation. And then I have another gentleman, can't drive, just another person. Come to find out, they went to high school together. Two of them went to high school together. And they bonded over that. All three of them by the end wanted each other's phone numbers. And they're gonna have, someone drives. So that is the best part. Now I have someone that drives because I have someone who's legally blind and someone who doesn't have a vehicle. And now we're all friends. So, I have another gentleman, he walks around, he's like, I'll stop by and see you next time I'm walking in your neighborhood. That's the whole point, is keeping everybody aware of just bringing community back, right?
So these lunches, and I'm sure our time is just about up, but what these lunches are is a by invitation with the outreach worker. They'll drive you to a restaurant, and over the course of a whole year of the people that will be serving with these, they'll get to do it one time because we're paying the whole lunch. And so, but spread the word. If there's somebody or you yourself feel like you could benefit from one or another of our groupings, because we're going to try to group people together in groups of 3 to 6 to go out with outreach workers to lunch locally or in one of the neighboring towns. So that's a completely new project that we're doing. Then we're also doing many informational presentations over the course of the year, all kinds of things, health, benefits counseling, all kinds of topics with food, which is something that, as you know, we don't have an operational dining program. So we worked with the health department to get clear on what we can bring in so that people can come in, have sandwiches and hear talk, and maybe just have a little bit of time where they're eating together instead of just straight up, you're coming in for a talk, grabbing a muffin and a coffee. It'll be a little bit more social. We already saw that happen at our fall prevention presentation where people hung out for quite a while, talking with each other afterward, and that was great. We're past the point of where we were in COVID, where people just quick hit, come into that yoga class and run out. Now, come hang out, get to know each other, and the more people do hang out and the more things they do either at the senior center or with us picking them up to take them somewhere, the more likely they are to think, maybe I should apply for SNAP, or this is like a full-time job maintaining all these benefits. I could really use Ashley or Linda's help to sort through things, because if you've spoken with anybody of any age who manages their SSI or SNAP or whatever, or a whole bunch of them, it's a part-time job and not a full-time job, and people often need help with it. So that's what Ashley is here for. We didn't tell you about a lot of the other things that she does, but I'll just conclude with saying thank you, Ashley, and you should definitely come back.
Joe?
Yes.
Just a quick question for Ashley. I'm wondering if you've run into any seniors that have any issues or struggling financially in regards to real estate taxes.
No, surprisingly, I haven't had anybody come up to me with that issue.
They come to me.
If they come to you.
That's who they come to.
Yeah, probably, I think it's just more of a pull.
And
Yeah,
the assessor. They come to the assessor as
I
well.
would say so, but not necessarily to me.
Okay, and the only reason I asked that is obviously over the past 7 or 8 years, we've had a couple of significant tax increases due to the 2 new schools. And as we think about moving forward with the senior center, we could be going back to the voters again, asking for them to dig a little deeper for a senior center in the next 2 to 5 years. The good news is it'll be a much smaller increase than what we've seen in the past. But people were afraid of getting priced out of their homes due to taxes. And I'm not aware of anyone in the last 10 years who's lost their home due to real estate taxes.
No, I wouldn't say that. I didn't have anybody.
Actually, I'm going to say I do know one person who lost her home because of real estate taxes.
And I know people that have moved to save oil to save money, but I'm sure you hear about it, Chuck.
On occasion.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, no, I
Not a lot.
did it, but not a lot.
Yeah,
What we hear
They just
more,
don't come to me for it.
right.
right, what we hear more often is that people are moving to Easthampton because they know that we have a transportation service.
There you go.
So, yeah, I will say that our transportation, it's quite good.
Phenomenal.
Okay, we're a little bit over, but not too much. But does anybody have final comments on?
Doing a great job.
Thank you.
Good deal. Okay,
You want to put that into good bed.
Yeah.
okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Kathy, Louise seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, thanks very much, folks. And our next meeting will be in November, approximately 30 days from now.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.